Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to go over a little bit about list writing for 9th edition. Now there's a couple of small points that we want to put across. The first thing that we need to think about is a little bit of future proofing, by which I mean not necessarily going all out on one thing, because with a new edition, a new codex is going to come out and these things are subject to change. So if you only have all of your troops with fusion pistols and they suddenly go up in price and are no longer necessarily the most competitive option, then that might be a problem for you in the future. It is always good to have a mixture of different weapon options, of different unit options as well, so that in future, if something suddenly becomes the new hotness, that you've at least got one or two of those things available to you. So with list writing in 9th edition, there are a couple of things that we need to consider, including things like the new coherency rules and rules to do with the blast weapons. So because of blast weapons, essentially we're starting to look at maybe having smaller MSU style armies, and definitely if you run your fusion boat spam, you're probably going to be okay. You've got your 5-man troops, you've got a bunch of characters, you've got some bikes. It's probably still going to play into what you want to be doing. But if you're, for example, a Frozen Stars player, and when the Psychic Awakening came out and you were excited about the idea of having big units of 10 to 12 troops, how does this affect you? Well, there's a couple of different things. Obviously, there's always the min-max unit idea, which has been the case as well throughout 8th edition. But now with the Blast Special rule, we're probably going to start looking more at the idea of not having the full 12, but having a unit of 10 instead, so that you can avoid having that maximum shot potential from different units. The same with your bikes. Your bikes are probably going to be now in units of 5 rather than units of 6, simply to avoid some of that incoming damage. Now, how to write a list with the Harlequins in 9th edition? Well, I've got a couple of examples that I thought I'd run by you guys just to see what you thought, and also to see if it might give you a little bit of an idea of what to do with it. So the main list that I'm considering running is a single battalion. I think we're going to see more and more of these. If you want to play soup, you can still do that. You're paying the CP to have the options, and that's okay. If you need, I don't know, units of fire prisons, or if you need some air support, or if you need, shining spears to back up your other units, you can still use those. Just be prepared to pay the points for them. So overall, I'm still going on the basis of a pure Harlequin army, because that's what I do. I do have one idea for a Ynnari army, which would also be a pure Ynnari army, and then if you want to start mixing and matching, you'd have to change that up a little bit. So the first list that I'm thinking of running, I'm looking at running this for my first game, single battalion with 2 Shadow Seers and a Troop Master with a fusion pistol, and no other upgrade. The reason for this is because, well, I think, honestly, with the Twilight Fan being as good as it is as a weapon, with no necessity for upgrading your melee weapon, I'm probably going to be taking it. Yeah. Now that we have to put all of our relics into our list building prior to any tournament or game, I think this is going to be a relic that we are going to see more and more of, simply because of the versatility and the fact that you don't have to invest any points in it. So I'm definitely going to be taking that. I've got 2 Shadow Seers for a couple of reasons. If I want to do actions based around the Psychic phase, I have a Shadow Seer that can do that, and I have another one that can then cast spells to basically improve my units. What I'm thinking is that I will take the Shadow Stone on one Shadow Seer, and I will also pay a CP for the pivotal role that gives him then the Veil of Illusion, so that I can reduce the incoming damage simply by reducing the range of those attacks coming in. I think it's a very versatile, very useful character to have. And then I've got my second one, who's probably going to be a bit more of a damage dealer. So my upgraded one, probably going to be running the Webway dance and Twilight Pathways, so that I can obviously double move. I can potentially get the 6-up Feels No Pain, which is not amazing, but it's better than nothing, and we need that durability. So if everything has a 6-up Feels No Pain, -1 to hit aura with the stratagem as well to give it to everything, and then everything has its range reduced by 6 inches that's coming in, I think that's going to give my list a little bit of the backing that it needs. Then for my troops options, I've got 3 units of troops. This kind of plays into what I'm talking about with future-proofing. I have each of them with 4 of a different melee weapon and one fusion pistol. So 4 embraces in 1 unit, 4 caresses in 1 unit, and 4 kisses in 1 unit. I know that kisses are not necessarily the new hotness. Caresses have been amazingly strong for a long time, but given that we might see a few different monsters starting to come in and tanks, I think having a few of those multi-damage weapons might actually be a good idea. And then a fusion pistol in each to spread out a little bit of the kind of damage dealing potential against nastier, harder units and characters. I then have 3 transports for them, of course, because I don't want a unit of 5 running around on its own fully kitted out, because that is an invitation to shoot it to death. So those are all in transports. Now, there's a difference between one of my lists and the other, and it's a very subtle one. In one list, I'm going Soaring Spite, and I'm going to have 2 Void Weavers, which are not fantastic. Yeah, I know they're not fantastic, but I kind of want to practice playing with a whole load of different stuff, and I feel like they're going to be quite useful for just sitting on those backfield objectives while everything rushes up. The other list is a Frozen Stars list, and I have a unit of 10 players with all kisses. Partly because that's what I've got, and partly because I just think that if we have the deep strike potential there, and we can have our Troop Master with the re-roll charges and the +1 to charge, them and the Solitaire coming in together can do a horrendous amount of damage. So that's kind of what I'm looking at with that. I could put them in just standard reserve and have them coming in later on just to kind of give me a bit of something extra. Excuse me. So that's kind of the difference, is I either have the 10-man unit of troops or I have 2 Void Weavers in that place. For my fast attack options, I've got 15 Sky Weavers. 2 of them have Star Bonus, and all of the rest of them, all of the other 13, have Zephyr Claves. They all have Haywire Cannons. Haywire Cannons now gains Blast, which is fantastic. Gives them a little bit of extra versatility, which they already had, to be honest. They didn't even need any more. But they can clear out troops, large units of troops, and they can also obviously do a huge amount of damage to vehicles, which do seem to be coming back in. Their only weakness is against large monster units, and quite honestly, those Zephyr Claves cut through some of those like butter. So these are the mainstay, to be honest, of the army, but I don't want to have to worry about things like coherency and whatever else, so I've got them as units of 5. That also stops blast weapons from being able to add extra attacks to them if they roll badly. So I think units of 5, probably about right, and to be honest, that's what I was looking at before in 8th edition anyway. And then in my elite slot, I have 1 Solitaire, 1 Death Jester. I wanted to squeeze another Death Jester in there, but then I realised that I'd be taking so much away from my other troops that I kind of want to have the multi-threat sort of situation, and troops, honestly, at 14 points with just a Shuriken Pistol and a Harlequin's Blade, I'm not going to be having too many of them. They are an extra wound just in case, but honestly, for that point, they don't do very much. So I don't want to be taking away too much in terms of my upgrades to put into a DJ, a second one. So the 1 DJ, I'm playing around with a couple of ideas here, but I think either I'm going to go full Harvester of Torments, Kagorak's Lament, which would then be an extra relic, so I'm taking 3, or I'm just going to give him the Humbling Cruelty, just deny Overwatch and have him sat in a Star Weaver, ducking around and shooting stuff. So, those are the main principles. So just to run over it again, it would be 2 Shadow Seers and a Troop Master, 3 units of troops, potentially a unit of 10 troops, or 2 Void Weavers, 3 Star Weavers, 15 bikes, a Solitaire, and a Death Jester. Both of those come to exactly 2,000 points. Now, I do have another idea, which is I've got the Triumvirate of Iliad coming in soon. I will be painting those as soon as I've finished everything else. And I'd quite like to try out Ynnari in this edition, because the Strength from Death, while it's still annoying that you have to kill something, Harlequins don't tend to struggle with killing something, in a turn. It shouldn't be an issue. And if you're still playing MSU, then something of yours could die and you'll be fine. But the whole always strikes first rule has suddenly become very interesting, and it does mean that I would have to drop my Solitaire, but the Incarn is a reasonably powerful replacement for that. So if I have, it's essentially the same list, but I'd have to take out my Solitaire and the 2 Void Weavers / 10-man troop and add the Incarn for 290 points. He is expensive, he's very expensive. But he is very powerful, and he can be an amazing distraction card effects and a real pain for your opponent to just track down and to take. So for those objective based games where you have to be able to score the point at the beginning of your turn, if something dies in my opponent's turn and it's on an objective that I need to grab, my Incarn is going straight over there to take that objective for my next turn. So I think it definitely, the Incarn, definitely has a very potent place within the current frame and the current missions that we're looking at the moment. So I would like to try that one out. Yes, I'm dropping a Solitaire. Yes, I love my Solitaire, but I think it would be fun to try it out. And I haven't played pure Ynnari yet, so it would definitely be something to give a go. That leaves me with 12 points over, which would essentially be 2 more upgrades. Let's say 2 more Caress or 2 more Kiss in my units floating around in their transports. So those are kind of some of the ideas that I've been coming up with. I do feel that in this edition we might not necessarily want to focus simply on trying to take the objectives. We're going to be focused a lot more on denying our opponent's objectives by going in and killing those key units before they have the chance to react. Let's see how it all goes, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying the 9th edition so far. I hope you guys have been getting your games in there. Tell me what your list is looking like at the moment with the new edition. Tell me what ideas that you've come up with, or are you really kind of like foot slogging a bunch of troops, or are you looking at just really minimizing and doing MSU? What do you think is worth it in this edition? What have you found to be perfect? What have you found not necessarily to be worth it? I'd be very interested to hear, and I'm sure everyone else would too. So leave comments down below. Let me know what you think of my lists. Let me know what you're taking, and I'll see you all next time in another episode. Thank you very much, and goodbye for now.